Hi everyone, if you're watching a recording, do fast forward about a minute. We're a little behind today. Just trying to get everything going. It's Monday. I'm looking at the wrong clock, you know. That clock says it's still 12:30. Did a lot of adjustments this weekend and I guess I unplugged the thing. Oops. Oh, the things we go through. You got nothing. Andy says he's got nothing up there. I'm showing everything's connected. So I'm going to keep moving. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and try and log on myself and see if I can see what I should be seeing. Okay, it looks like my personal web page is up. Say hi, everyone. Hope you guys all had a good weekend. And yeah, I'm like, yeah, I did. Twitch is still being really glitchy out there from what we can tell. Oh, okay, so it looks like the Q Talk Facebook page is also up and running. So hi all. I can't see the chat. Andy's trying to get the chats running here. So, while Andy's working on that, did you see I posted the new project? I renamed it Petrified because I forgot I had named it previously. I know, way too many things on my plate. But this is the new Zoom for March. It is posted on the Urban Beater webpage, and you can also find it on the Q Talk Facebook page if you want to register for that. So that's going to be the new Zoom next month. And can you believe it? 99 weeks. Here we are. Next week is going to be 100. Oh, sort of exciting, sort of crazy. Trying to figure out what we want to do already. I know, still trying to figure out what I want to do for week 100, but I think I got it, and I'm going to work on it here in the next day or so and get that posted. You know, something kinetic, of course, because I love things that are kinetic. So today's Monday, and we're doing Start Something New, and we're doing a stone and stone. If you were here last week, you would have seen that I have drilled into my pink Peruvian opal, and we're going to set another stone inside. So it's a stone in stone. The premise of the Start Something New is I'm starting something new, and maybe you'll learn something new along the way too, because it's, you know, I've never done this before, and you know, I'm going to try to be really fluid about what I'm doing. No secrets behind, no hidden secrets, no aha, here's a baked cake after we've only mixed it for 2 minutes, that kind of thing. So we're going to try and walk through the entire process so that you can learn something along the way, as I'm learning things along the way too. So hopefully you're getting something out of it, and yeah, maybe what you're going to learn is you never want to do that. I don't know. Or a trick for something else, or a tip for something else that you're working on. So last week what we did was we drilled our hole, and we created this bezel for another stone. It's a garnet, and we made basically a peg for it, which we will insert in there. I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to glue it or going to rivet it. But we had to stop because I really I was not prepared for the design, because we were making the design as fluid as possible as I'm working through all the steps. So we also took some gallery wire last week, and we made a bezel going around the stone. It's going to be a big piece. Can you tell? Look how big that is. And then we also took some berry wire, flat berry wire, and we worked it around there. Word of caution, if you're going to do something like this, it's not that easy when you're using flat wire and you're trying to make a circular form or any shape that is also flat. It makes it really hard and peculiar. So we had to stop because I didn't have a back plate for this, because, you know, we're going to need to do something to get all these pieces to come together. So what I did was I had a piece of silver, and I rolled it a little bit. You can see a little bit of a texture there. And, you know, again, just because I can is a thing. And I have a new Durston rolling mill. I'm pretty excited about that. So there we are. Andy, just a reminder to everybody, Andy's putting up the links to the all the things that you're going to need, or not all the things, a lot of the things I'm using today. So if you're needing any of the tools, it is available on the Urban Beater website. Okay. So anyway, so I'm going to solder this down. Still haven't decided what I'm doing with this massive space inside here, because, you know, there's a part of me that feels like I'm totally wasting all this silver, right? Is it really necessary to have all of the silver in here, or do we want to cut and open back? But of course begs the question, if I open this back, this is what's been going through my head all day or all morning, is how we're going to attach this, and do I really want to glue this in? A lot of people do glue this in, and I had made the peg long enough so that I can rivet it in. But if I rivet this in, I'm going to have to leave enough space in the back plate for it to rivet too, right? So I don't know. We'll get there. We will get there. So a little bit at a time. So in the meantime, we're going to have to get this to solder down flat. So we're going to flatten this first. I'm sorry, there was a comment. Andy, can you repeat that, please? So the comment is that you can do either one, that Linda has done both, has done stone on stone and has glued, and has also riveted the second stone. So I don't know. We'll think about it a little bit longer. So here, this piece has a little bit of a curve in it, so I'm just going to be flattening it. So Deb Henretti said, do a decorative bar on the back where the stone will rest. There's a thought. This might go into a 3-week deal. Let's get this soldered on first. Okay, so I'm just flattening this piece out. Make sure it's really nice and flat, or else it will not solder down well. And then I'm going to take out my little baby mallet and see if I can get this to go down a little bit more. Actually, we'll take this off. I think that's pretty flat. Yep, that's pretty flat. This one, maybe not so much. So did you guys all sign up this weekend for Virtual Labor Crafting using your coupon while it was still good? I saw a lot of your names out there. Thank you so much for the support. Our instructors, thank you for that. Okay, so there we are. I think we're good. So, of course, there's that part of me that says, gee, do I want to go ahead and saw this out? Because there's a lot of metal here, and that's a lot of heat sink. Ugh, I know. Oh, the decisions, I don't know what I want to do. But we'll decide here. Very quickly, we're going to make this decision happen. All right, so let's pull out a tripod. So I'm working on a tripod because I want to be able to heat from beneath. Again, this is a huge piece. And if you missed the discussion last week, there's always a discussion about what is a good size to start with when you're working with a bezel. And the answer is not too big and not too small, because if it's too small, it's just really hard to make. If it's too big, it's a little bit hard to solder. I would say that this piece here, I find it to be a bit too big. So what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to bend this piece so that it's nice and flat. Go ahead. Okay, so the comment was open back, undulating curve on the where I could rivet it and then rivet it there. I was thinking that. I really was. Okay, so here's the problem with doing something really big, okay? This is always the challenge. Okay, so can you see that? That's a challenge right there. It is not flat to the surface. But, okay, this is where you do as I say, not as I do, okay? You really need to get this nice and flat so that you can solder it easily. I'm not going to do that. I'm actually, I know, so bad. I'm actually going to go ahead and start soldering, and I'm going to push this down to the bottom when it gets hot enough and when things start tacking in. So I'm going to put solder all throughout both pieces, and then I'm going to push it down once it starts heating up and it gets hot. It's going to anneal. So it should, notice how I said that, should just come right down. All right, I need a lot of solder. Where's my solder? There it is. And we're going to go ahead and go with medium solder because I know that I had used hard solder on these other joints. I probably could get away with hard solder, but on this one, I'm going to be really, really diligent about it. No, these two pieces are not attached. They're just really nice and tight, which is great. And I'm just putting a lot of solder all over the place. And I know you see that gap between the bezel wire and the berry wire, okay? I'm actually going to fix that here after we do all of this. And I'm going to show you why and how in just a minute. You know, I was looking at this design. The only thing I've done since last week was this morning, and I kept looking at this design and trying to figure out how to just tighten it up. You know, because for me, I don't do traditional designs very often, and this is a little bit too much. Like it's almost it's like there's too many things going on, and so I want to refine it a little bit, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. So there's a question out there, what's the gauge of the back plate? I'm using 24 gauge that has been rolled, so probably more like 25 gauge. It's not 26, it's too thin. It's not as thin as 26, so I'd say probably maybe like a 25 at this point because I rolled it. But I did start with 24. Usually for back plates, I do 24. But because I rolled it and I didn't have the 22, and also, frankly, because it's a back plate that's not an exposed back plate, that's not functional, I wasn't too worried about it. Okay, so I'm putting a ton of solder on here, can you see? Because I need it on the berry wire and I need it on the bezel. I need both, okay? So you can grab a little bit more solder here. Because you want all of that to tack down. So I'm going to go some on the inside also to ensure that my bezel wire gets tacked in there. So there's signs of spring here. I'm pretty excited. It's supposed to be in the 50s today. It was in the 40s yesterday. Got to go out on a lovely walk. My goodness, the number of dogs that were out being walked yesterday was crazy. Titus was loving life, of course. He got to sniff other dogs. I'm sure that's a thing that makes him happy. And yes, I realize that I have cut myself short up here, but I'm okay with that because I'm going to put a bale up there anyway. Okay, so we're going to make sure this goes down as much as possible. All right. This is not an easy solder job, let's be honest. This might take a couple of tries. And from what I understand, you all like it when it takes me a couple tries to solder. Actually, this tripod is too short. I'm going to move it out. I'm going to try another tripod. Let's go with that one. There we go. Okay, this is a 9-inch tripod. Yes, I have both 9 and 6-inch here. The reason for that is about the cameras. but typically I do like working on a 9-inch. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat from the bottom. I really always like to heat from the bottom because I need to get this nice and hot and soldered to that bottom. Okay. Getting everything nice and hot. There it goes. Nice. 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 Oh, that makes me so happy. The torch sputtered because I'm coming up over the top, so I'm no longer surging fuel, but I'm coming over here to ensure some of these areas are soldered, giving a little extra love. So the question is, did I set it? Did I set it or do I set it? Oh, could I set it a little catty cord to make it fit a little bit better? Yeah, I could have, and honestly, I thought about that, but this, for me, worked out better, so I went ahead and went with this. Okay. Did you see that? The solder went all the way around. The green is from the flux that came out, and I'm going to double check and make sure. Yeah, solder went all the way around, and the berry wire, still a little questionable. We'll find out here in a second after we quench it. Okay, set everything aside. Ooh. Ooh. Wow. I think we did okay. There might be a spot here. Oh no, let's put it in the pickle. Andy says go play the lottery. Probably could. You gonna buy me a lottery ticket tonight, honey? By the way, I'm not talking to myself. For those of you who've not been here before, Andy's in my ear, helping me along, telling me your comments, and that's how I know what the chats are all saying. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out my my saw and my bench pin, and we'll saw around this piece. Okay, there we go. Saw, switch cameras. Oh. That's frozen. What happened? My camera stopped working. Second camera. Oh, much better. Okay. Let's try that again. Oh, okay. We're working. All right, let's pull this out. The pickle, maybe? Not quite. A little bit longer. Well, since that's working, let's talk about the bail a little bit. So I've decided that I wanted to make my own bail. So I cut a, I just cut a piece, I had a piece of scrap actually, and so we're going to cut this into some sort of a bail. Something simple. And yes, I actually hallmarked it. Can you see that? Oops, no, wrong camera. I don't think you can see that. But anyway, so, how do I want to do this? Again, we're trying to keep this fluid, so bear with me as I'm working through and trying to figure out how to do this. So to make this, I need to make it into sort of a triangle. And actually, I'm going to flip this screen a little bit. Oops. There we go. Much better, sorry. Okay. I want to make this into a bail that looks sort of like this, right? So I'm going to have to cut these ends out to flare it. But how do we do that to make sure that it is nice and even? We're going to take out our divider. Oh, what are the chances? My divider is at the right spot. And I want this bail actually to have a lip on the back side to solder onto my back plate. Okay, so I'm making, as you can see, it's not going to be half. So it's just under. And I'm going to mark it on both sides. And I went the wrong direction because this is my back side, so we'll try it again. We'll go here. And then we're going to go here. So I have a mark to aim for. And then let's decide how big we want this. So what I'm doing is I'm just marking with my divider each side so I can have a point to go from here to here. I don't like that. It's not quite big enough. And I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. I know it's hard to see. Actually, you know what, here. Sharpie. Okay, so we're going to mark it with the divider. This helps me keep track of making it even. Okay, so this was my mark here and here. Let's see, is that big enough? I think that's big enough. Yeah. And then I'm just gonna blacken it in for you so you can see it there and there. So now I can go like this. And have it be even. See how I did that? Because this morning I was too lazy to get on my computer and digitally create one, which I usually do. But we'll go with this. Take out our shears. Cut it just like that. So you can see, nice and even. And then on this side, we'll do the same. So here and here. And then this is going to go a little bit longer. Too long. Still too long. I like to eyeball this stuff. I mean, you want to get really precise about it. God bless you. You know, well, especially if I'm just working basically for myself. I'm not creating a pattern for anybody else. If I was doing this for a pattern, I'd sit here and measure it, and I put it into your instruction sheets so that you know exactly where to go. Right? Right. Sure. Sure. Sure, they say. Sure. Okay. Again, to create our angles, to make sure that they're the same. And this is going to be my bail. There you go. Did not cut that very well. Have to cut that again. I can already tell very quickly that I cut a slight bow into it. Okay. All right. So that's going to be my bail. We'll bend it over on our multi-looping plier would be nice. I'm going to start big. Actually, I'm going to start small because I can always make it bigger. I'm just going to put it right there and bend it around in the void. Hopefully, the back is going to be longer than the front. Ah, yes. You see that? It is. I'm so happy. It worked. I know. Oh, look at that. I got a bail. Okay. Let's pinch that down. There we go. And then we'll take out our nylon nose, see if we can pinch that a little bit more. This probably is going to need a little bit of help with annealing, because once you start bending this stuff, it just hardens on you. So remember, anneal is your friend. Who is that guy? I don't even know. Okay, let's file this a little bit. Make sure it's nice. Nice edges. I'm going to go ahead and lop off these corners a little bit just to give it a slight radius, because it just might catch. It shouldn't, but it just might catch. And it just gives it that little bit of refinement instead of a raw edge. And as you can see, I'm filing at a slight angle to the edge just to give it a little bit of a bevel. Pretty happy. Oh my goodness. Honey, we really need to play the lottery. Okay, so then, if you remember last week, we were talking about maybe on this bale, I had an extra little flower here. Whoops, whoops. From the berry wire to maybe put, oops, you can't see that. Sorry, let me zoom out. Switch cameras. So I had a little bit of berry wire, and so I was thinking about maybe putting it on top to make it a decorative bale, like so. Okay. For now, that seems to be a good plan. Also, because I cut this, we're going to have to file it. There's some raw edges I see on the ends of where I cut. So I'm going to hold that there because it's teeny weeny, and we're going to file it just a little bit. Okay. And there we go. Okay, let's pull this out of the pickle. Let's check it. Ooh, it's looking pretty good. I'm gonna at least saw out the edges. Saw off the edges. I'm checking just because I'm being a little bit inattentive. Okay, so I do have a teeny weeny bit right here and right here that didn't solder, but it's pretty solid, so I'm going to go with it because I'm going to add yet one more component to this, and we'll just solder it at the same time. Okay, so we'll switch cameras again and go ahead and saw this out. Okay, whoops, stop shaking. Okay, there we go. A little bit of cut lube. You know, this stuff gets everywhere, doesn't it? But it's good to use it. And I'm just going to saw around all these little flowers. It's going to take a minute. So you might want to go have a cigarette and come back. But I'm guessing it's going to take me about 5 minutes to do this. Okay, maybe 10 minutes. Okay, so you know what's really interesting here is I'm having a really hard time seeing in here. So I wonder if I brush it, I could see it a little bit better. Let's see. Oh yeah, because it's all sort of sliding together. The eyes are starting to go. Oh my gosh, did I say that? The eyes are starting to go. So I'm going to brush this so I can see this a little bit better. Because there's like no definition in all that white scale, right? White oxide, silver oxide. Oh, so much better. Okay, so if it fights you like it's fighting me, for goodness sakes. Oh. You know what? I'm using a really heavy saw blade. Let's try a different one. Let's see if this makes it any easier for me right now. Okay, that would be a no. I broke that. I was being lazy, and I was just using the saw blade that was there, so serves me right. I'm going to go ahead and move out to a thinner saw blade, because this is just really fighting me. Sure, this might be 20 minutes for you mortals out there. Haha, Gail. Come on, Gail, you gotta love sawing. I know a lot of you really don't like sawing, but I actually do love sawing, except when I'm live on camera. It's just, you know. Oh, this is so much better. Oh my goodness. Yes. And now I feel like I'm talking to a puppy. So you see there, sometimes you just need a thinner saw blade. I could totally feel it. It's so much easier. Remember to always use the entire length of the saw blade, and then you do that until you break it. Jiminy crickets. Oy. Did I ever show you guys my saw blade holder? My Cheapy saw blade holder? Hold on, I'll show you. I don't know why it's pleasing me today, but it's making me happy. So I took a jar and I turned it upside down. I drilled holes into it and put sand in there. Voila. I have a saw blade holder that works. And then I can label it. Did you see my little Sharpie marks? Okay. It's a lot less expensive than that saw blade holder thing I saw for 30 bucks. It's like, oh, no. Okay, so I'm working my way around again. Back to where I left off. Okay. I'm trying really hard not to saw off the little flower, the little pebbles. I'm trying to keep my eyes in front of the saw blade and pay attention to where I am sawing. I want so much to look up at the screen to make sure you guys are seeing it, but I'm going to assume, since Andy hasn't made a comment, that you can actually see what I am doing. Oh. Okay. Frozen video again. Sorry. Go. I don't know why I'm losing connection to my camera there. It's so weird. But this morning, twice, I lost power to my light, my overhead light. Even though it was plugged in and everything else works, all I needed to do was unplug it and plug it back in, and it worked. So weird. Just about there. And then of course you're going to want to go back and take out your needle file and clean this up. Okay, maybe I'm struggling because like I know why I'm struggling. Because my saw is upside down. Crap. Did I really do that? Ha! Okay, but I was still sawing. Oh my goodness. Holy moly. Hey, it's Monday. How are you guys all doing? Did you see all those cabochons I bought in Tucson? What the heck was I thinking? But I really appreciate everybody who took some off my hands. What am I talking about? Check it out on my personal Facebook page. Or you can go to Craft Exchange. They are posted there. You know, it's amazing how this works so much better when you have the saw blade going the right way. Okay, so I need a little refining over here, and I actually find it faster and easier than using a file. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to refine what I see or what I can with the saw blade as opposed to going in with a file. Because again, I find it a lot easier to do with my saw. Okay, so I'm pretty happy. Look at that. It's pretty even. Woo! Next up, decision. Okay, so next up what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and keep moving while I'm thinking through the back plate, okay? Yes, this is what I do. I continue to move on things that I know I can do. Oh well, can do while I make other considerations. So that said, okay, so first I'm going to want to solder this piece on here, because I think this will look great. We'll switch cameras again. Okay, let's go ahead, oops. Raise that a little bit. And today I cannot think of what I'm supposed to be doing. There we go. I actually forgot where my switch was on my camera. Okay. I think like that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and solder this piece on. We'll go ahead and put a little bit of hard solder on the back. Teeny bit. Like so. Right in the middle. And we'll put this on the pumice. Welcome to your world, Marcy says, of not, I'm assuming of not being able to see the saw blade. I know. Okay. I think I want it centered there. So we'll just solder that, throw it in the pickle here in a minute. Oh, I knew you were going to move on me. Oh no, did you see that? Hands are shaky today. I did have oatmeal for breakfast, but clearly no protein. So notice I'm not panicking. I kept my cool here, and I kept my heat on so that as soon as I got it into place, I could solder. I could just go right back in, heat it up, and solder it. Okay. A lot of you, when you do this, you're panicking. Don't panic. Just deep breath. Okay. Pickle, quench pickle. So here, as promised, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? There's a gap. And another thing too is, for me, this is just too much. It's a bit overwhelming. So I want to put a break in there. So I'm actually going to add another frame on here. And that will make it a little bit more distinctive. Hard to see. We'll bring it in a little bit. Do you see that? It'll just sort of, so this is speaking to design. It just gives it a little something to break the two patterns up. You see? And also, what this will do is it will close up that gap. Again, hard to see right now, but there's a teeny weeny little gap in here between the bezel and the berry wire. And so this is what I've been thinking about this morning, is how can we bridge it to make it look a little bit more refined? And these are the things that we do just to get it there. Okay, so I'm just gonna, okay, so this is a piece of 20 gauge wire, and as you can see, it's really springy on me. So I'm gonna go ahead and anneal it, so I can work with it a little bit easier. And I'm choosing again to make my joints on the side and not in the middle. Okay. I already know I'm going to need to trim that. Let's see. Again, working with such a big piece is a little cumbersome. And this is where you gotta decide what's too big and what's big enough, right? Okay, so this is gonna need to be trimmed. Trim that again. And because this is so stinking springy, I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to solder it, shape it, and keep cutting it, because I'm having such a hard time getting it to the shape and size that I want. That's going to be my trick. We'll try it one more time. Make sure I'm not way too big. Actually, wow, I'm pretty darn close. Let's see, I'm gonna push it a little bit more. I'm like, wow, yeah, I'm like really close. So this is actually not that easy. It's not gonna be an easy solder job right here. It's gonna be hard because this piece is so flimsy and it's so wanting to spring. As you can see, I'm struggling with it. I'm gonna keep bending it until I can get it to come together. Okay, like that. Okay, and I know this is gonna pop as soon as I put heat to it. I'm gonna double check and make sure that at least the ends are nice and flush. We're gonna put a little bit of hard solder on here. We're going to solder this together. Again, by soldering it together, you're giving it leverage, right? So that you can shape it. So we'll heat back here, hoping that it doesn't flex up here, and then we're gonna heat here, right at the joint. And I've got my tweezers ready. I'm actually heating up my tweezers because they're wet. And if this pops, I'm gonna put the tweezers down and push that joint together. Wow. I totally expected that to completely pop open. Yay. Again, solder gods are with me. Okay, so if this is too small, which I don't anticipate it to be, you can always stretch it just a little bit. Oh my goodness. Is it right? Is it right? Okay, it's a little big, actually. And I want you to see that. Because we're working really hard today to be refined about this. You see that? That's a gap. So, but this is nice in that the wire was annealed along the way. I'm pushing it to conform around my piece, and then I'm going to recut that and take off that tiny little bit so I can make this the right size. Before I do that though, I'm going to go ahead and pickle it. And while I'm in the pickle, I'm going to go ahead and grab my bale out so you can see. There's my bale. Pretty happy. And you see, it's a little bit, oops, it's a little bit long because I want to put it on the back like so and have this on the front like that. Or maybe even just have that attached on the back and pinch it down. We'll see. I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. Haven't decided yet. Okay. Now I'm mumbling. I just mumble to myself. All right. Out of the pickle. We're going to trim this right at the joint. I'm taking off a little bit on both sides just to make sure I have a nice flush cut. I'm going to gently put it back in. I really need to pay attention which side is which. Okay, maybe it was this side. Yeah. Okay, there we go. So I took off a tiny little bit, and I can still see that I have a gap here. So I'm going to take off a teeny weeny bit more because I want this to be so tight. And I'm pushing it down to measure. Okay. These are small, itty bitty moves. You can see that. Right, just taking off a tiny little bit at a time because I don't want to make this too small. Okay, so do it again. Hello, Canada. I'm glad you made it home. Okay, and hard solder again. There. Heat the whole thing. Heat that joint. Make sure it's nice and soldered. There we go. So now we're going to reshape this just a little bit because we pinched it together. Please don't be too small. Please don't be too small. Okay, stretch it just a hair. Oh, I know you're going to fit. Ooh. You see how I did that? I used my nylon nose and I just gently moved it over, and look, it fits. So happy. Okay. And this is just enough to disguise, that gap. That's what I'm doing. As you can see, it's just enough to give you that bit of a break in all of that design, right? It breaks your eye a little bit, right? Is that how you say it? Okay. Happy, 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 happy. Okay, so I know, now that I got it down, I'm actually gonna pull it back out. I needed to know that it worked. So we're gonna take it right back out. And I'm going to sand this wire just a little bit to make sure that it's nice, because it's going to be so hard to sand later and refine that. Might as well do it now. Because we want this piece to be really nice and neat. We're putting a lot of metal, a lot of money into putting this together. Might as well do it right. We're not working with copper anymore. So when I'm working with a more precious metal, I do take a little bit more time to refine these processes. Okay. Yes, that's a saw blade. Let me get rid of that. Go. Okay, so now we're going to put this back in. I believe it went this way. Because it was not a perfectly oval stone, there's a little bit of adjusting to make sure that you're in the right area, the right shape. Okay, so before I push this all the way down, I'm going to go ahead and place some solder all around. I'm going to go ahead and use medium solder again, because I really need to save that. I want to save the easy solder for the bail, because I don't want anything to open up at that point, right? Well, I'm glad you like it out there. And I'm just going to tack this in. I'm not going to get too crazy about putting solder everywhere, because it's just to tack it in. It's just a decorative piece. So notice I put a big wad of solder down. Of course, I'm not going to use all that right in that spot anyway. Okay. There we go. And then we're gonna, actually I'm gonna put one more spot right here. Okay. So, a couple more spots just to make sure that we're in. Okay. So I'm pushing it all the way down to the bottom and making sure that it makes good contact I know I have solder all the way around in several key areas. I also mentioned earlier that I had a spot that needed a little bit of extra solder. So I'm going to go ahead and put that there now. And we're going to solder it at the same time. Put it right there on the edge. Don't want any on the back as I have this great design back here. And I thought I had one more spot over here. I believe it's same place, opposite side. I'm just going to put a little solder in there and help myself. Okay. So instead of doing two steps of solder, we're just going to do one and get everything together. All right. How do I want to do this? Tripod. Okay. The debate is tripod or solder board. And because I need to get that berry wire down, I'm going to go ahead and do it on the tripod because I want to get the bottom hot so that I can get the berry, that area, the gap with the berry wire to come together. So we're heating from the bottom again. And then focus on those two areas that we want. They get pretty nice and happy hot. And they come up. I'm going to go ahead and solder those joints first. Okay, and then now we're going to work our way around and we're going to get this wire down. There we go. It's still sort of sticking up and I'm helping it by pushing it down with my tweezers. Of course I could do this with a solder pick, but this is working just fine. Okay, there we are. Done deal. Okay. And you know what just happened? I think my wire broke. And it did. So I overheated right here. And my round wire broke. About a 1/4 inch. Where'd it go? Don't know. Okay, let's just stick it into the pickle. And let's take a look and then figure out how we're going to fix that. But I think what's going to happen is we're going to have to put another little tiny piece of wire there and make that connection. So this happens, or I can go in and take that entire piece out and do it again. We're at about an hour. We'll talk about it, but we're definitely going to have to come back to figure this out. And then in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to wrap my head around what the back should look like. What's happening the rest of the week? I don't think we're doing, Friday, I'm taking the day off again. I know, I'm catching up. Things are happening, as you can see. You can follow it on Facebook. Things are happening. On Wednesday, I'll be back with that ring that I think is over there at this point. I was showing somebody the other day on Zoom, so it's not here. Still pickling, I'll show you that in a second. And so that's what's happening on Wednesday. So we're doing the, what was it? A UFO? UFO. We're setting the oval ring, and I got to figure out how I'm going to fix that. In the meantime, while we're pickling, I'm going to fix this last thing before we go, and then I'm going to show you what happened with my piece. So not quite enough of a lip on the bail, so I'm going to make the adjustment now. Let's see. How do I want to bend this out? There we go. There we go. Yep. So you see now I have a lot more of a lip back here to attach to the back of my my piece. Now, typically, let's be honest, if I was doing this, I wouldn't be telling anybody what happened. But as I said, we're going to try to be full disclosure about this whole thing and be really vulnerable to what's happening here. And I'm going to show you. I think what's going to happen is, you know, I was pushing it down and I felt something else. I was like, oh, wow, it moved so easily. Maybe it wasn't moving so easily. Maybe it was breaking. And it could be that the wire, see, can you see that? There's a break in the wire right there. And as I'm looking at this more, it looks like I might have broken it some other place. Debate. So the question really is, can I actually get another piece of wire in here and make it disappear and make it look like there's no connection? I don't know. I have to think about that. In the meantime, I think on this, I'm gonna go like so. So we're gonna go, see how I'm tucking it right behind like that. I left myself a tiny little bit of space to do that with. I'll make another adjustment here. I'm gonna move this up just even a little bit more. So I have a little tiny bit more of a lip. Open that up, and then we're gonna push that down. Yep. There we go. See, so now it's nice and flush back here, which is great. Yeah. Woohoo, that worked. So I'll solder that on. We're gonna go to 3 weeks on this. We'll solder this on next week. Okay. I'm gonna think about the design back here, but I'm thinking I like what Deb and Linda said about creating probably something like this would be nice. Right? And we'll saw it out so that it has a spot for us to rivet that onto the back. And because I've got this business going, it would be nice. I think it would be nice to have that in this design. And it'll be something like this. Something like that on the back. You know, it'll also lighten the piece a little bit too. And it'll save all this nice silver. We can use that for something else. I mean, heck, this piece is absolutely big enough to cut a disc out of to create another piece. And even down here, if I sawed carefully, I could cut another disc. Actually, and it'll be really cool, is I'll take those two pieces and make something else out of it. Probably on a UFO would be fun. Okay, so there we are for now. All right, I'm gonna ponder. If you have any suggestions, do send me a note and let me know. And yeah, keep up the registration for Virtually Ever Crafting. And again, have a look if you need some cabochons or want some fun stuff. I have it on the QFOM Gray page, and also on the on Facebook, and also on the Craft Exchange page on Facebook. So in the meantime, have a great day, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday. We're gonna try to finish up the other ring, and I'm gonna try to get March up and running for that 100-week anniversary. Big number, big number. All right. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Really